Let's start with we talked about the partner program around AI. Also, you measure partner a bit differently. Right? One, you look at how much of revenue is sourced by the partners and how much is influenced by the partners. So, Priya, do you have any view on how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. It's, when I started at AWS about 4 years ago, there was so much conversation around these terms, AWS originated versus partner.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. AWS originated versus partner originated. And I've been seeing this really nice trend actually in the last year, which is we've been using this term called JO, jointly originated. So how are we going to it together? So I think we've started to shift the conversation from, this component or this consideration of balance of trade and talking more about how do we plan and work together strategically and proactively. And I will tell you from my lens sitting in GenAI world, we are starting to see this be so much more important because what we're seeing in GenAI is that the buying decisions are not sitting with one owner at the customer, right? It's a combination or it's a cohort of individuals that are customers that are making these decisions, combining our, their chief technology officers with their CXOs. And so it requires us to work with our partners that have relationships across the board and can make this consistent message. So I think for us, it's less about focusing on balance of trade, but more around how do we work together collaboratively early on. And what we're investing in is the tools and resources for our partners to do that more effectively. So our Salesforce access, integrating Salesforce and AWS Marketplace. We just recently announced Slack capabilities embedded into Salesforce, all to focus on improving that communication between our teams.
Which is a lot more collaboration between the partner rather than looking at these specifics. And we saw some large number, 4 trillion, Pallab. So we had like 4 trillion. There was 230 billion, Stephen, you had. But when we speak to CIOs and CTOs of large companies, I was in a meeting with one of our CPG customers yesterday. They're looking at their biggest concern is, hey, I'm doing this SAP migration. That's taking 75% of their build budget. Right? So they are going through more tactical, foundational challenges. When we talk about Gen AI, the question is, hey, what is ROI? I'm really not sure. There are a whole lot of different solutions coming in. Every ISV is pitching to us. Every hyperscaler has some solutions. And what they're looking for is something which is more personalized, which is relevant to their industry, where they can see the ROI immediately. So, Stephen, do you work with partners to build these personalized solutions, which could potentially scale across customers and industries?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. There's so many different ways to answer it, but I want to have my colleagues answer the question as well. So, as I mentioned a moment ago, when we look at our partner program, we have the traditional channel partners, which is where Microsoft grew up for many years. Lots and lots of ISVs and lots of very new ISVs building on our platforms, and then of course the core of how we implement through global systems integrators, advisories, systems integrators, et cetera, et cetera. So over the last 15 months, I would say we started where everybody started, which is we can drive efficiency. We can take cost out of the equation. Over the last few months, we've seen a lot more business cases where not only are we driving that efficiency, but where the companies are choosing to reinvest or looking for ways to drive the top line. My own example a moment about cost in the support organization, measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars, that is a perfect example of using that to reinvest and make us better going forward. So yes, it starts as an efficiency, but it turns into a how do we develop a better support organization all up. So I will stick to my own examples. That's the ones that I know best. The same thing in the sales organization, where we're driving top line change as a result of the application of AI. And we're taking those business use cases to every industry that we are in, whether it's financial services, manufacturing, or anything else. So we still believe there's an efficiency gain, but we're rapidly building on top of that efficiency gain to show revenue gains as well.
And thanks, Stephen. So one of the things, Priya, you mentioned is around collaborating with your partners around sales, right? And Pallab, I know Google has some programs around co-innovating with partners. How does that work? How have you? And what are some successes around that?
Sure. And there's this element in partner programs itself that allows for collaborating with any partner type at scale. So there's a part of it which is programmatic, whether it could be in terms of offering credits, whether it's in terms of offering expertise, tooling, etc. So whether you're an ISV and you want to proof out a technology on our platform, there's an element to that. That's standard par for the course, so I'll not dwell on that piece. The piece that we find interesting is, again, given the fact that, and Stephen, you mentioned it quite well, that innovation has to go pretty much along with the efficiency gains that, to your question, how SAP implementation that take years are meant to drive. The fact of the matter is SAP implementations or any complex business application is going to, things will improve over time, but they are complex, they are hard, they go to the DNA of the organization. So you got to keep that as the reality, and yet you can't say that I'm going to wait for that to get over before we start innovating. And so I agree with Stephen over here that it's got to, quite often generative AI becomes the spur or the reason for uncovering such inefficiencies because it opens up the world of possibilities in the blue sky sort of a thinking, right? So what we are doing, the way we think innovation can be spurred is, first of all, break down the shackles of partner types. So let's focus on the business problem. You are an insurance company. You potentially want to transform the way you do underwriting. Let's not look at it from a product lens. Can we look at a cohort of partners with the internal IT included that can look at this in a completely fresh lens? And can we, Google, be the catalyst in this? So we are only a catalyst in terms of offering technology, offering funding, offering incentives. But the idea is to bring multiple partner types together to solve a canonical industry problem that is replicable. And honestly, we don't even care about the IP. The IP can be with the partners. More often than not, it's the SI that holds the IP. The spur is transform my business process. The catalyst role is to bring the partner types together. Then the third piece is, okay, now how do we go and conquer more, get into more customers? We call it the industry value network in the way we look at it. It's really, really focused on creating value networks that solve industry problems at scale.
So what are the kind of insights, data-driven insights, are you able to provide to your partners to be able to innovate on this, right? You have your customer success team, they'll have deep insights on how your customers are using different products, they're on your cloud. How are you able to share some of these insights with your partners so they build something meaningful to our clients?
It's a perfect question. I was in the Partner Advisory Forum with some of our top partners 2 weeks ago. And the first thing partners said was, look, hey, you Google, you are probably into more conversations around driving business value than we ever are. And that's true. And the question from them was, can you not just open up the kimono and tell us how you drive those value conversations? Where is value really residing? Take any industry, in an insurance underwriting process or in a telco churn management process, right? And so really the first piece is being able to articulate business value and come out with a business value measurement and a transformation approach. There are a lot of such frameworks available. We have ours, and we have since then, in those last 2 weeks, opened it up to partners. So partners now have availability and resource and have the visibility to use the very same CVA models that we are using internally. Every partner in the room can use it. But more importantly, since we all can agree that value is driven by data, Google does bring some interesting data sets to the table. Number one, par for the course is ISVs or data providers. Dun & Bradstreet, Nielsen, whatever have you, those data sets are available. You can access that from a single console, which is your BigQuery console. You can do magic with that by merging it with the internal data. That's data that drives value. But there's also this other data that Google has, and we are bringing it to the enterprise, and we are seeing customers more and more wanting to get to that data to drive incremental value. Those could be Google Maps data, Earth Engine, Climate Engine data. It could potentially be Google Trends, which is how's consumer behavior shaping up in a particular zip code around a particular product. There's no PII involved here, but that's an amazingly valuable signal for a retailer. So those data sets are now surfaced up within our BigQuery products. Obviously, anonymized, no PII data being compromised, but when you're trying to transform business, those data sets can drive tremendous amount of value beyond what's available out there.
Interesting. A lot of external data sets and internal data sets, cleaned up data sets.
True.
Okay, great. And Priya, coming back to you, one of the things you mentioned in your presentation is how AWS is working across partners. You have several foundation models. You don't have your own model. Maybe you have, but you also make sure that every other model is available, and you work with several SIs. And to Pallab's point, when you bring these partners together, you're going to bring in, for every use case, you're going to bring in a whole lot of multi-partner solutioning. How do you avoid conflicts in this scenario? How do you bring this ecosystem together to service a client?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would start first by sharing, talking about data too. We've been spending a lot of time this year, or in the last year, I should say, investing in collecting obviously our own data, but also market data, and serving our customers and understanding what they want. And one of the trends we're seeing around the multi-partner section is this term I've been hearing, which is like best of breeds. So customers are willing, I think more than we've seen in other times, to put together the right solution and stitch together the right pieces to get to the outcomes that they want. And so by sharing that with partners, I think it opens them up more to wanting to partner, wanting to understand what's in the landscape, not to mention just the amount of money that has been invested in generative AI through VCs. Like our partners understand that if they're not kind of keeping their eyes open, they're not partnering, they're not working with the up and coming companies, that they're the ones that'll fall behind. So I think step one is sharing the knowledge and the importance of, from a customer perspective, what is the need for this multi-channel approach. And then the second, or multi-partner approach, I think the second lens then is kind of taking down the walls between us versus them. So when we think about how we support our partners, right, we start with enablement. So we use the term build, then we work around markets. How do you create awareness in the market? And then sell, so funding, incentives. That's kind of the arc that we go through. In the last year, we have created programs along all these lenses to enable partners to work together. So we have funding incentives that support partners working with other partners. We have go-to-market programs like tri-party initiatives that work together with partners to do account mapping and help customers jointly engage with those customers. And even in our own training hubs in the Center of Excellence, about 20% of our content is educating our partners on ISV solutions or other solutions built on our platform. So I think for us, kind of addressing that is educating them and then really removing the artificial difference between us versus them.
Got it. And the market is a very large market, so there's significant opportunity for everyone there. Stephen, from your perspective on that?
I realized listening, and I did it myself, that we have a habit of kind of putting partners in certain buckets that we deem to be the right terminology. And I'll just be hopeful here that the way that generative AI is coming out and the kinds of partners that are coming out and the changes we're seeing in the partner program, that label is increasingly irrelevant. Right? There's a metamorphosis going on in each partner of what they're capable of bringing to the table. Simple examples like global systems integrators bringing healthcare solutions to market. We all know who I'm talking about. Or others in financial services or whatever else. So from my perspective, and trust me when I say this, and I'm sure you guys would 100% agree, every single large customer on the planet is probably going to use all of us or some of us. They're going to use SAP, they're going to use Oracle, they're going to use Adobe, they're going to use ServiceNow, and the list goes on. So when we think about bringing solutions to market, you have to think about that. It takes a village, or oftentimes it takes several villages in order to do that. And so what we're trying to do is internally break down the barriers. So if anybody's coming to Ignite next week, in my keynote, you'll see me on stage with ServiceNow. Right? I don't manage ServiceNow, but I know that ServiceNow is really important to my customers. So that's a good way to break down the barriers and demonstrate that I don't care what a partner is called. I care whether or not a partner can solve a customer solution for me. So, like I said, I'm guilty of doing it myself, and I'm not, blaming anybody else for doing it. But I think the world that we're sailing into, that partner tag is largely irrelevant. It's what can you do for the customer and how do we stitch it? You said it right. How do we stitch it together? And we have a great opportunity to do a lot of that stitching at the platform level to make it simpler to layer going forward. So I'm super excited by the opportunity. I was super excited by previous waves of computing or whatever you want to call them. But this one, if I'm allowed to say, is like a tsunami compared with some of the other ones that I've personally lived through anyway.
Thank you, Stephen. I think we are run out of time. We want to keep to schedule. Hopefully all of you have time post the sessions to stay back and take some questions from others. Thank you. Thanks to take your time and come here. Thank you.